You have been told that love is a feeling, a sudden rush of warmth, a trembling of the heart when you meet another soul. But I tell you this, what most of you call love is not love at all. It is an intoxication with the very forces that keep you bound to your own unconscious wounds. You do not see the other as they are. You see them as the mirror of your own unhealed shadow. And the mirror excites you. This intensity, this magnetic pull, is often nothing more than your psyche screaming for recognition of its deepest fractures. The empath, above all, is vulnerable to this illusion, because the empath feels so deeply that they cannot distinguish between the pulse of their own hidden suffering and the heartbeat of another's pain. The empath is drawn to this intensity like a moth to the flame, mistaking the fire of unresolved trauma for the warmth of genuine love. Real love does not blind you. It does not burn in the way an addiction burns. Real love is not a fever. It is a quiet, steadfast flame that illuminates without consuming. But the empath has been trained since childhood to seek their identity in the intensity of others. They learned early that love meant absorbing pain, soothing storms, and holding chaos until it calmed. So when they meet someone who carries chaos like a crown, who bleeds unspoken wounds into every word, the empath feels alive again. It is as though their childhood patterns awaken and whisper, "This is familiar. This must be love." But the familiar is not always true, and the intense is not always real. Do you see how cunning the psyche can be? It will lead you to recreate the dramas of your past, to chase ghosts and shadows as though they were real lovers. This is why so many empaths are entangled with those who wound them. It is not because they desire to suffer. It is because suffering feels like home. If you have not learned the difference between the archetype of the wounded child and the archetype of the true lover, you will mistake one for the other. And the world will tell you this is passion, that the more intense the feeling, the more authentic the love. But I tell you, this is not passion, it is possession. It is the unconscious dragging you back into the same labyrinth until you learn to walk differently. I have spent my life studying the shadow, the hidden side of the psyche that we would rather not see, and I have discovered that the shadow speaks most powerfully through our relationships. When you meet someone who ignites overwhelming emotions in you, be it love, hatred, or desire, you are encountering not just a person, but an archetype awakened within you. For the empath, this archetype is often the wounded savior, the healer who believes their value lies in taking on the burdens of others. They fall in love not with the person, but with the intensity of the drama, because the drama makes them feel alive. This is the addiction to emotional intensity that I warn you about. The unconscious loves extremes. It craves the high and the low, the exaltation and the despair. It is like a God who feeds on your suffering and joy equally, indifferent to your well-being. And when you are unaware of this inner God, this tyrant within your own psyche, you will follow it blindly. You will chase those who wound you, because the wound calls forth all your energy. But real love, true love, is not an addiction. It is not the roller coaster of highs and lows. It is the profound recognition of another soul, seen and accepted as they are, without the compulsion to fix or to fuse. It is a calmness that does not depend on chaos to feel real. I want you to look at your own life. Think of the relationships that consumed you, the ones that burned like fire in your chest. Were they love, or were they a projection of your own unhealed parts? Did you see the other person? Or did you see the reflection of your own need for worth? This is the danger. For the empaths, they do not know where they end and the other begins. They are so porous, so open, that they confuse the other's emotions with their own. This creates a whirlwind, a storm that feels like love, but is only enmeshment. You cannot find real love while you are addicted to emotional intensity. For as long as your heart craves the dramatic rise and fall of feeling, you will overlook the steady presence of true connection. The empath must learn to step back, to see that their compulsion to merge with others is not always love, but fear of being alone, fear of not existing unless they are feeling something for someone else. They fear the quiet, because in the quiet they must face themselves. And many are terrified of this meeting. The journey of the soul, however, demands this meeting. It calls you into the dark cave where your own shadow waits. And it asks, who are you when you are not saving someone else? Who are you when you are not feeling their pain? If you cannot answer this, then you have not yet met yourself. You are still wandering in the projections of your own unconscious, mistaking them for reality. In the dreams of my patients, I have seen countless symbols of this addiction to emotional intensity. There are dreams of storms and floods, of fiery houses and collapsing bridges, symbols of overwhelming forces that sweep the dreamer away. Often, these dreams appear when the dreamer is entangled in relationships that feel like life or death. The psyche is trying to tell them, you are losing yourself, you are drowning in borrowed emotions, you are mistaking the chaos for connection. And unless they awaken, they will repeat this cycle again and again. Imagine for a moment that love is not an emotion, but a state of being. It is not the fire that burns, but the warmth that endures. It does not demand that you lose yourself, but that you find yourself more deeply. How would your life change if you believed this? Would you still be drawn to those who bring only storms? Would you still call the whirlwind passion, or would you begin to see that true love is found not in intensity, but in presence, in the silent, knowing that neither of you needs to rescue the other, because both have learned to rescue themselves? The archetype of the true lover is not the savior. It is not the empath who bleeds themselves dry to fill another's emptiness. The true lover stands whole, rooted in their own soul, and from this wholeness they meet another. There is no addiction here, no frantic need for intensity. There is only the deep, calm recognition. I see you as you are, and I am not trying to fix you. I am not trying to merge with you to avoid my own loneliness. I am here, and that is enough. To reach this place, you must turn inward. You must confront the shadow that tells you love must hurt to be real. You must see the patterns that draw you again and again to those who cannot love you back. not because you are unworthy, but because some part of you is addicted to the struggle. This addiction is not a flaw. It is a symptom of a deeper wound somewhere in your life. You learned that love and pain were intertwined. Perhaps you grew up in a home where love was inconsistent, where you had to fight for affection, where you believed that to be seen, you had to suffer. The child within you still carries this belief, and it plays out in your adult relationships. But you are no longer that child. You have the power to choose differently. You have the power to step out of the pattern and say, I will no longer call chaos love. I will no longer mistake intensity for connection. I will learn to sit in the quiet, to feel the gentle warmth of my own soul, to love myself without the need for another's fire to keep me alive. And when you do this, you will begin to attract a different kind of love. A love that is not born of addiction, but of freedom. There is a profound shift that happens when you realize that the storms you have been calling love are, in truth, echoes of old wounds. It is as if a fog lifts and you see the landscape of your heart with new eyes. The empath's journey is a heroic one, but not in the way the world imagines. It is not about saving others. It is about descending into the depths of your own psyche to retrieve the fragments of yourself that you gave away long ago. Only then can you rise, not as a savior, but as a whole being who understands that love does not demand sacrifice of the self, but alignment with the self. When I speak of addiction to emotional intensity, I am not using the word addiction lightly. The psyche can become just as dependent on certain emotional states as the body can on substances. Emotional highs, those intoxicating surges of passion, longing, or drama are often sought unconsciously because they distract us from the quiet ache of the soul's unmet needs. For the empath, these highs are even more dangerous because they confuse the empath's innate ability to feel deeply with a false sense of meaning. When the empath is drawn into a relationship with someone whose energy is chaotic, wounded, or volatile, they feel as though they are needed, as though their presence has purpose, but this purpose is a trap if it keeps them from looking at their own inner landscape. You might think, but is it wrong to feel deeply? No, feeling is not wrong. Feeling is the very bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, the thread that connects you to life itself. But when feeling becomes entangled with compulsion, when you are unable to step away from the fire even as it burns, then feeling is no longer your ally, it is your jailer. This is the challenge for the empath, to learn discernment, to know when they are feeling with love and when they are feeling out of an unconscious need to relive old patterns. In many of the dreams I have studied, I see the empath's shadow emerge as a figure who is both healer and prisoner. Sometimes it is a mother tending endlessly to wounded animals, her hands bleeding but her eyes unseeing. Sometimes it is a lover chained to a crumbling tower, waiting for someone who will never return. These are not just stories. These are archetypal images that reveal the truth of the empath psyche, that their care for others can become a form of self-abandonment, that their need to feel the pain of others can overshadow their own longing for peace. There is a moment in every true journey of transformation when you must turn around and face the monster that has been chasing you. For the empath, this monster is often their own shadow, a reservoir of unacknowledged rage, grief, and fear. They have spent so long avoiding these feelings, numbing them with the drama of other people's lives, that they forget these emotions belong to them. The empath who is addicted to emotional intensity often avoids their own stillness, because in the stillness the shadow speaks. It whispers of betrayals long buried, of childhood wounds left unhealed, of a self that has been longing to be seen and loved, not for what it can give, but simply for being. Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to draw all your energy, why you feel drained around them yet unable to leave? This is not love. This is the shadow's dance, a merging of wounds between two people who are both searching for wholeness in each other's brokenness. And the empath, because of their deep sensitivity, often takes on the role of the healer in this dance. They believe that if they can just give enough, heal enough, love enough, the other person will change. And then they will finally feel safe, loved and worthy. But this is an illusion. You cannot heal another's wounds if you have not faced your own. You cannot love someone into wholeness if you are still scattered within yourself. There is a profound loneliness that the empath feels, a loneliness that cannot be filled by others' emotions. It is the loneliness of the soul calling for its own attention. And until you turn inward and answer this call, you will keep seeking intensity outside of yourself. The highs and lows of emotional entanglements are seductive because they mimic the movement of the soul's own longing for union. But the true union you seek is not with another, it is with the lost parts of yourself. Only when you have welcomed back these exiled fragments, your anger, your grief, to your desires, can you meet another person in love rather than in addiction. You must understand this. The archetype of the lover is not about clinging, nor is it about rescuing. It is about seeing. To love truly is to see the other as they are, without distortion, without projection. The empath who is addicted to emotional intensity cannot see clearly because their vision is clouded by the need to feel, to merge, to dissolve into the other's story. And so they do not love the person before them. They love the intensity, the drama, the story that allows them to escape their own silence. But silence is where the real work begins. Silence is where you meet your soul. I urge you to find moments of stillness, to sit with the discomfort that arises when there is no chaos, no storm to navigate. It is in these moments that the truth begins to surface. You will hear the faint voice of the child you once were, the one who believed love had to be earned through suffering. You will feel the weight of all the times you abandoned yourself for the sake of someone else's approval or affection. And you will see, perhaps for the first time, that you do not need to keep living this way. The journey of individuation, the path toward becoming who you truly are, requires this confrontation. It requires you to separate the archetypes from the reality, to know when you are acting out a myth that no longer serves you. For the empath, this might mean letting go of relationships that thrive on chaos. It might mean saying no when every part of you wants to say yes. It might mean choosing the quiet, steady presence of someone who offers love without intensity, and trusting that this calmness is not boredom but freedom. I want you to imagine something. Imagine standing before a mirror, but this time you do not look for flaws or signs of pain. Instead, you look into your own eyes and see the vast, infinite depth of your soul. You see the healer, yes, but you also see the one who needs healing. You see the giver, but you also see the one who deserves to receive. And in that moment, if you understand that love is not about losing yourself in another, but about finding yourself so fully that you can stand in love without fear. The shadow will resist this. It will whisper that you are selfish for turning inward, that you are abandoning others by not absorbing their pain. But the shadow lies. You cannot offer true compassion from a place of depletion. Real compassion arises when you are rooted in your own being, when you know who you are and what you feel, and you can hold another's emotions without drowning in them. This is the transformation that awaits the empath who dares to break free from addiction to emotional intensity. As I speak, I can feel some of you resisting these words because they challenge the very foundations of how you have understood love. But ask yourself, has this understanding brought you peace? Has it given you relationships where you feel seen, respected, and cherished? Or has it left you exhausted, longing, and endlessly chasing the next surge of feeling? The truth is that real love may feel quieter than you expect. It does not ignite the same frantic highs, because it is not born of wounds, rubbing against wounds. It is born of wholeness, of two souls, meeting not to complete each other, but to walk together. This does not mean that love is without passion or depth. On the contrary, when two whole beings meet, the depth of their connection is profound. But it is not chaotic. It does not consume, it nourishes. It is not an addiction to feeling, it is a communion of being. And this is what I want for you. For every empath who has spent their life mistaking pain for love, I want you to taste the kind of love that does not leave you drained, that does not demand your self-sacrifice as proof of its reality. I want you to know that love can be gentle, steady, and true, and still powerful enough to transform you when you begin to untangle yourself from the addiction to emotional intensity. You may feel as though you are losing something precious. There is a strange emptiness that follows, like the silence after a storm. The empath who has lived on the edges of others' emotions might feel lost in this quiet, unsure of who they are without the surge of drama or the pull of another's pain. But this emptiness is not a void. It is a doorway. It is a sacred space where you begin to encounter your true self, stripped of all the illusions that have bound you. Consider for a moment how many times you have mistaken longing for love. Longing has a fire to it, a sharpness that cuts through the heart and makes you feel alive. But longing often arises from absence, from a sense of something missing within you. And when you project this longing onto another person, you do not love them for who they are, you love them for the hole they seem to fill. This is not love, it is dependency disguised as passion. The empath's heart, with its deep wells of feeling, is especially prone to this confusion. They feel the longing so acutely that they believe it must be love. But it is only the echo of an unmet need. Real love does not spring from absence. It grows from fullness. It is the overflow of a heart that has learned to hold itself with care and tenderness. To reach this fullness, you must confront the parts of yourself that you have abandoned. You must sit with your own pain rather than trying to heal it through another person. This is the essence of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all that you have denied, all that you have cast into the shadow. For the empath, this means reclaiming not only their sensitivity but also their boundaries, their anger, their desire to say no. It means realizing that they are not here to be consumed by the emotions of others, but to learn how to stand in their own light. The archetype of the wounded healer often lurks in the empath psyche. This archetype is powerful and noble, but it can also be destructive if it is not balanced by self-awareness. The wounded healer believes they must suffer to help others, that their worth is tied to their ability to absorb pain. But the true healer knows that healing does not come from self-sacrifice. It comes from alignment with the deeper truths of the soul. The true healer does not bleed themselves dry. They hold a mirror to others, showing them the path to their own inner light. To embody this higher form of the healer, the empath must first heal their own addiction to intensity, their own compulsion to fix and save. In the quiet of self-reflection, you may begin to notice patterns that have played out in your life again and again. You may see how you are drawn to those who are unavailable, those who create chaos, those who cannot love you fully. And you may feel a deep grief as you realize how much of your life has been spent chasing these patterns. Do not turn away from this grief. It is a necessary part of the transformation. Grief is the soul's way of cleansing the old wounds, of making space for something new to grow. If you allow yourself to feel this grief fully, without judgment, you will find that it softens you not into weakness, but into a new kind of strength. Dreams often reveal this process with startling clarity. I have seen dreams where the dreamer is wandering through a burning house, desperately trying to save objects that keep crumbling in their hands. This is the psyche's way of showing them that the structures they have built, the beliefs about love and self-worth, are no longer stable. The fire is not a punishment. It is a purification. It burns away the faults so that the true can emerge. For the empath, the fire might appear as a crisis in a relationship, a sudden awareness that what they thought was love is, in fact, a mirror of their own unhealed wounds. This moment of revelation is painful, but it is also liberating. You may ask, if not emotional intensity, then what is love? Love is presence. Love is the ability to stand with another person, fully and without projection, seeing them as they are, not as you wish them to be. Love is not about merging into one another's wounds, but about supporting each other's wholeness. It is about walking side by side, not carrying each other's burdens as if they were your own. Love is not a constant high, it is a steady, enduring flame that burns quietly but powerfully, even in the absence of drama. To experience this kind of love, you must first learn to love yourself with the same presence. This is not the shallow self-love that the world often speaks of, but a deep, unwavering acceptance of all that you are, the light and the shadow, the beauty and the pain. When you can sit with your own emotions without needing someone else to validate or soothe them, you will begin to see love differently. You will no longer be drawn to the whirlwind because you will have found the calm within your own soul. The empath's journey then is not about turning off their sensitivity, but about refining it. It is about learning to feel without being consumed, to care without losing themselves. This requires boundaries, and boundaries are often the hardest lesson for an empath to learn. They fear that saying no means they are unloving or selfish, but the opposite is true. Boundaries are the foundation of real love because they allow you to give from a place of strength rather than depletion. Without boundaries, love becomes enmeshment, a tangled web of need and pain. There is also a spiritual dimension to this journey when you are addicted to emotional intensity. You are often disconnected from the deeper currents of your soul. The highs and lows distract you from the quiet, steady guidance of the self, the inner wholeness that Jung spoke of as the organizing principle of the psyche. The self does not speak in the language of drama. It speaks in symbols, dreams, and subtle nudges. To hear its voice, you must quiet the noise of addiction and learn to listen. This listening is not easy, but it is where true transformation begins. Imagine for a moment that you are walking through a forest. The path is overgrown, and every few steps you encounter a shadowy figure who tries to lure you into the thicket with promises of passion and excitement. If you follow them, you will find yourself lost, entangled in vines that grow tighter the more you struggle. But if you stay on the path, if you trust the stillness and the subtle signs, you will eventually emerge into a clearing where the light is soft and golden, and you will see that you were never alone. This is what it feels like to move from addiction to real love. It is not as thrilling at first as the chase, but it is infinitely more nourishing. The empath must learn that love is not earned through suffering. Love is not proven by how much pain you can endure for someone else. These are lies that have been passed down through generations, embedded in cultural stories, religious narratives, and family dynamics. True love does not require you to diminish yourself. It does not demand that you give beyond your capacity. True love honors the balance between giving and receiving, between self and other. It is a dance, not a battlefield. This dance of real love becomes possible only when you have faced your own shadow and reclaimed your power from the patterns of intensity. It requires you to see clearly, to recognize when your heart is being pulled, not by love, but by the old wound that still longs to be healed. This is why I urge you to turn inward, to explore your dreams, your memories, your deepest fear. Each time you bring a piece of the unconscious into the light, you become freer. And as you become freer, your relationships transform. You will no longer attract those who feed on your energy, because you will no longer be unconsciously offering it. This journey is not for the faint of heart. It requires courage to break free from the familiar, to let go of the intoxicating highs that have defined your idea of love. But what awaits you on the other side is worth every step. It is a love that is not born of addiction, but of wholeness. It is a love that does not drain you, but strengthens you. It is a love that feels like coming home, not to someone else, but to yourself. There is a sacred turning point in every empath's path where they must decide if they will continue feeding the cycles of intensity or step into the quiet strength of true love. This moment often feels like death because you are being asked to let go of the very experiences that have defined your identity. Who are you if not the one who feels everything? Who are you if not the one who rescues, heals, and sacrifices? The psyche trembles at this question, for it has built its house on the shifting sands of other people's emotions. But to awaken, you must dismantle that house and build one of your own, brick by brick, on the bedrock of your own soul. When I speak of soul, I do not mean something distant or abstract. The soul is the living core of your being, the seat of your most authentic self. It is the part of you that does not crave intensity for validation because it is already whole. But to connect with this part of you, you must journey through the labyrinth of your own unconscious. You must face the shadow, not as an enemy, but as a guide. The shadow holds all that you have denied: your anger, your longing, your power, and it waits for you to reclaim these aspects so you can stand in your fullness. The empath often fears their own shadow. They fear their anger because they have been taught that to be good, they must always be gentle, always giving. But anger, when acknowledged and integrated, is not destructive. It is the boundary setter, the protector of the soul without anger. The empath is like a house without walls, open to every storm. Emotional intensity often comes from this lack of boundaries, from the constant flood of others' emotions seeping into the empath's unguarded psyche. By reclaiming their anger, not in violence, but in clarity, the empath begins to distinguish between what belongs to them and what does not. Consider the archetype of the alchemist, the one who transforms base metals into gold. This archetype lives within you. The addiction to emotional intensity is like a raw, unrefined metal. It is heavy, chaotic, and unsteady. But if you are willing to face the fire of self-awareness, to stay with your own discomfort without running into someone else's drama, you begin to purify this metal slowly. It turns to gold, not through avoidance, but through transformation. This is the work of the inner alchemist, to transmute suffering into wisdom, launching into presence, intensity into calm power. Have you ever noticed how quiet true love feels? It does not scream or demand attention. It does not pull you into highs and lows that leave you breathless. True love is like a still lake at dawn, reflecting the sky in its clarity. It is a meeting of two souls who do not need to fill each other's voids, because they have each found their own center. For the empath, this quiet can feel strange. even unsettling at first. It lacks the drama they are accustomed to. But if they stay, if they allow themselves to adjust to this new vibration, they will discover a depth and richness that no whirlwind could ever offer. The challenge lies in trusting this quiet. Many empaths mistake stability for boredom. They believe that love must be a constant struggle, a constant intensity, because that is what they were taught in the formative years of their psyche. But this is a distortion, a remnant of the wounded child who learned that love was conditional, that it came with pain and unpredictability. To break this cycle, you must be willing to sit with your discomfort when love feels calm. You must teach your nervous system that safety is not the absence of feeling, but the presence of true connection. In my work with dreams, I have often seen the symbol of the bridge. The bridge represents the passage from one state of consciousness to another. For the empath, crossing this bridge means leaving behind the land of addiction, the land of constant highs and lows, and stepping into the land of balance. This crossing is not without fear. Beneath the bridge is often water, symbolizing the unconscious with all its unknown depths. To cross, you must trust that the ground on the other side will hold you, and once you do, you realize that the intensity you clung to was never love. It was merely the turbulence of your unhealed self. Let us speak of archetypes again, for they shape our lives in ways we rarely notice. The empath, when unconscious, often inhabits the archetype of the martyr. The martyr believes that suffering is noble, that to love is to give endlessly, even to the point of self-destruction. This archetype is seductive because it offers a false sense of meaning, but the true archetype of the lover is not a martyr. The true lover is whole, so verein and radiant. They give because they have, not because they are empty. They love because it flows naturally from the fullness of their being, not because they need to prove their worth through sacrifice. To awaken this true lover within you, you must shift your focus inward. Begin to ask yourself, what do I feel when I am alone? What do I desire? Not from others, but from life itself. What lights my soul on fire, independent of anyone else's needs or pain? These questions are not selfish, they are sacred. They are the doorway to your individuation. And when you answer them, when you begin to fill your own cup, you will find that your relationships transform. You will no longer be attracted to those who drain you, because you will have learned to recognize your own energy as precious. The unconscious has a way of drawing us back into familiar patterns, even when those patterns harm us. This is because the unconscious does not differentiate between what is good or bad. It only knows what is familiar. If chaos was your normal, you will unconsciously seek chaos because it feels like home. Breaking free from addiction to emotional intensity requires that you consciously choose a new home. This means surrounding yourself with relationships, environments, and practices that foster calmness, clarity, and self-respect. It means saying no to those who demand your energy without giving anything in return. It means trusting that true love will never require you to lose yourself. The empath often believes that to step back from others' pain is to abandon them, but this is not true. In fact, when you are entangled in someone else's suffering, you cannot truly help them. You become part of their chaos. Only by standing firmly in your own being, by holding your own center, can you offer real support. This is what I call compassionate detachment. It is not coldness or indifference. It is the ability to care without losing yourself. It is the recognition that every soul has its own path, and you cannot walk it for them. The journey from addiction to emotional intensity toward true love is not linear. You will stumble. You will find yourself drawn back to the familiar whirlwind, because the unconscious loves to test your resolve. But each time you choose differently, each time you pause and ask, is this real love? Or just another storm, you grow stronger. You begin to feel the difference in your body, in your heart. True love feels steady, grounding and expansive. Addiction feels frantic, urgent, and depleting. Learn to trust this inner compass. The transformation of the empath is ultimately a spiritual awakening. It is a realization that love is not something you chase or grasp, it is something you become. When you are aligned with your true self, love flows naturally, like a river. It does not need to be forced or proven. It does not depend on intensity or drama. It simply is. And when you stand in this kind of love, you will find that the relationships around you either rise to meet you or fall away. Those who thrive on chaos will no longer hold your interest. Those who meet you with calm presence will feel like home. When you finally stand in the quiet presence of your own being, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see with new eyes, as though a veil has lifted from your perception. The faces of those who once captivated you with their storms and their chaos lose their power over you, because you no longer resonate with the frequency of your own unhealed wounds. This is the true liberation of the empath, not the hardening of the heart, but the softening into clarity, where compassion flows without attachment and love exists without addiction. To arrive here, you must first confront the inner landscape of your psyche with radical honesty. Look at the stories you have carried about love. Perhaps you were told, silently or explicitly, that love was something you had to earn, that it required suffering or self-sacrifice. Perhaps you watched your parents' love burn like a fire, bright, dramatic, but destructive, and you believed this was the way love must always be. These early imprints run deep, and the empath's sensitive nature absorbs them like ink on paper. The challenge now is to rewrite these stories, not with bitterness or rejection, but with the truth that you have come to know through your own soul's awakening. Dreams often reveal the turning point of this awakening. I have seen countless dreams in which the dreamer, once lost in labyrinths or storms, suddenly encounters a light, sometimes a candle, sometimes a figure clothed in white, sometimes simply an open door leading into a quiet garden. These images speak of the soul's readiness to step out of the cycles of intensity and into the stillness of real love. The candle does not burn wildly, it glows steadily. The garden is not chaotic, it is alive with quiet beauty. These dreams are invitations to create a similar landscape within yourself. Real love, as I have said, is presence. It is not a fever. It is a grounding force that allows both souls to grow without entanglement. For the empath, this can feel almost alien at first, because they are accustomed to losing themselves in the emotions of others. But when you encounter someone who loves without needing to consume or be consumed, you begin to taste the freedom of true connection. This love does not demand that you bleed to prove your devotion. It does not pull you into cycles of confusion or pain. It allows you to breathe, and in that breath, you discover your own soul again. The process of unlearning addiction to emotional intensity is not a rejection of feeling, but a refinement of it. You learn to feel more deeply, but with discernment, you begin to recognize which emotions are yours and which belong to others. This awareness allows you to hold space for others without drowning in their pain. It also allows you to experience love without the constant need for turmoil. You realize that true depth does not come from chaos, but from the courage to be fully present, to witness both yourself and the other as they are, without masks or projections. To embody this new way of being, you must cultivate inner practices that anchor you. Spend time in solitude, not as an escape, but as a way to meet yourself. Sit with your breath, listen to the subtle movements of your heart and mind. Pay attention to your dreams, for they are the language of the unconscious, offering clues about the places within you that still seek healing. Journal, meditate, create, do whatever helps you. Build a bridge between your inner world and your conscious awareness. These practices are not luxuries. They are the groundwork for a life of true love and freedom. I often say that the greatest relationship you will ever have is with your own soul. Everything else flows from this. When you are rooted in yourself, when you have embraced both your light and shadow, you no longer seek others to fill the spaces within you. Instead, you meet them as equals, as fellow travelers on the path of becoming love. Then is not a desperate reaching, but a mutual recognition. It is a meeting of two fires that do not extinguish each other, but burn brighter together. But you must be prepared for the truth that not everyone will follow you into this new way of loving. Some will be drawn to your steadiness, while others, still addicted to their own cycles of chaos, will fall away. This is not your failure. It is the natural unfolding of the soul's journey. When you rise in consciousness, when you step out of addiction, the relationships that cannot match this frequency will dissolve. Do not grieve this as a loss. Instead, honor it as the clearing of space for the kind of love that aligns with your truth. There is immense power in realizing that love is not about saving anyone, nor is it about losing yourself. Love is about seeing and being seen without distortion. It is about holding the paradox of human imperfection while recognizing the divine essence within each being. This is the kind of love that frees rather than binds. This is the kind of love that does not need constant intensity to feel alive, because it is rooted in something far deeper, a shared connection to the soul, to the eternal. The empath who embraces this truth becomes a beacon, not a martyr. Their presence itself becomes healing, not because they are trying to heal others, but because they are fully alive in their own being. They radiate a calm strength that says, I am here, I see you, and I do not need to lose myself to love you. This is the gift you give to the world when you break free from addiction to emotional intensity. You show others that there is another way, a way of loving that does not destroy but builds, that does not consume but nourishes. Imagine now that you are standing in front of a great mirror, but this time you are not looking for who you were or who you thought you needed to be. You are looking for who you are now after the storms, after the burning, after the long nights of longing and confusion. You see a face that is both familiar and new. The lines of pain have softened. The eyes are clear, reflecting both wisdom and tenderness. This is you, the true you, the self that no longer chases intensity because it has found peace within its own depths. In this place, love feels different. It is not a rush, it is a deep current. It does not pull you under, it carries you gently. You find yourself drawn to relationships that honor your boundaries, that respect your energy. You are no longer seduced by chaos because you have learned to value serenity. And in this serenity, you discover that love is not the absence of passion, but the presence of truth. Passion still exists, but it flows from a deeper well, one that is not fueled by fear or need, but by the joy of simply being alive and connected. This is what Carl Jung would call individuation, the process of becoming whole. It is not an end, but a beginning, a lifelong journey of integrating all that you are. And as you walk this path, you realize that love is not a destination, but a way of moving through the world. It is in how you hold yourself, how you honor your own soul, and how you extend that same honor to others. It is a quiet revolution that begins within and radiates outward. As we come to the close of this exploration, I leave you with this: do not fear the quiet, do not fear the absence of intensity. These are not signs that love is gone. They are signs that real love is beginning to take root. Trust the stillness. Trust the subtle rhythms of your heart. Trust that you are worthy of a love that does not demand your suffering, but celebrates your wholeness. This is the love that transforms, not through fire and chaos, but through presence and truth. The empath's path is a sacred one, filled with both challenges and gifts. But when you step out of the patterns of addiction, when you claim your right to stand in the fullness of who you are, you will discover that the love you were seeking was never outside of you. It has always been here, waiting for you to return home.